So continuing on with our Disney Star Wars AUs, our next one is going to be a fun one because I haven't really done a lot of these videos and I really like the show. So, yeah. So this one is Amphibia and the Amphibia Star Wars AU. So this one's going to be interesting because this is again set in the Revenge, New Hope timeline, and essentially what this is not too long after Revenge of the Sith, like maybe 2-3 years max. And essentially what it is that Amphibia is like an outer rim world that's kind of just off on its own. Even the Empire doesn't really give a shit about it, but there is an Imperial presence there, but it's more like we're checking in, and King Andreas works with the Empire. Like, he works closely with the Empire, and the Empire does have like little bases here and there that essentially are digging around the old like factories and temples, because this actually was a separatist world. Like, Andreas and all of them were part of the Separatist Alliance, and they immediately, when the Separatists left after the Clone Wars, they were immediately like, hey, we're cool. Like, hey, we're cool. I'm willing to work with the Empire no matter what. Here, just have some Imperial stuff. And there is other things with the Empire that go on, but really it's more of the frogs, everyone else, all live under the heel of the Empire, and Andreas is given enough power by the Empire to do as he wishes with everyone else. So yeah, so more or less the Newts are the most who are working closely with the Empire. The Toads kind of keep themselves, but they do defy the Imperial law, and the poor frogs are caught in the middle of it. So the Empire is off doing that, and we find ourselves with Sprig, who is out one night, one day, just kind of exploring, going off and thinking, kind of pulling the Luke Skywalker of, I want to go out there and fight the Empire, I want to be like a hero and all that. And of course Hot Pop's like, no, you do not want to do that. But one day Sprig is come upon by a huge snake, and that's when he is rescued by a young woman with a lightsaber, a blue lightsaber, and that person is Anne. Anne in this continuity is a Padawan who survived the Purge, the Order 66. She survived Order 66, but her master was killed, and she had been basically hiding on this planet under the nose of the Empire, because she's like, well, the best place to hide is in plain sight. And Anne's been living as a hermit out in the woods for all this time, kind of pulling a Yoda in a way, because she's just like, if I need to hide myself. But Sprig, of course, ruined that. Now she's like, well, damn it, I can't leave, because then if I try anything, they're gonna ask, why is a human out here, out in the woods? So yeah, thanks. Now I have to pack up and move somewhere deeper into the world, into the planet. But Sprig's like, why don't you come live with us? It'd be kind of cool. You're a Jedi. I've heard the stories about the Jedi. And she's like, oh, did you hear that the Jedi betrayed the Republic? And he's like, yeah, but I always thought that was a lie. And Anne, however, was always kind of like up in the air about it, because for her, she kind of noticed that the Jedi were kind of like doing a little more amorally things. So she was like, when she heard that the Jedi High Council had attacked Chancellor Palpatine, she was kind of like, that can't be right, but like, I can't not believe it. Like, I can't say it's not a lie. So she's been kind of like, the Jedi Order had to have had to have done something to deserve this, because she had been kind of like been demoralized by the war at the same time, and now has just been kind of living out in the woods. However, when Anne is eventually, Anne is kind of noticed, of course, like when she is brought home to the Planners and they give her refuge, an Imperial census shows up. They're like, why is a human here? He's like, oh, I'm just a traveler. I'm just here to, just hanging out, just a traveler. And he's like, whatever. all right, moving on. But of course, this kind of gets passed along, and Anne's face is scanned, and that gets passed along to people, and then it falls in the Inquisitor's hands, because what happens is that Sasha immediately recognizes it. Sasha was not only a Jedi who trained with Anne, but also fell to the dark side at the end. She submitted to the dark side during Order 66, and is an Inquisitor now. And when she discovers that Anne is alive, because she's been gung-ho about finding Anne, because, like, yeah, Anne and her were friends slash rivals in the Jedi Order, but but now, to really go gung-ho on the whole Sith Order, she believes she has to kill that light within her, and Anne represents that light inside of her. So Sasha has been gung-ho about she's been helping to hunt Jedi under, with the rest of the Inquisitors, but she's been really gung-ho about finding Marcy and Anne, who both were unconfirmed deaths in, like, if she didn't see a body or get any confirmed deaths from Order 66, she's been convinced that they're both alive, and now she's found that Anne is alive. So she goes with special prevention. She asks Lord Vader personally, because they're training at his castle, and when she finds out, she steps forward to Vader before any other Inquisitors to have a chance to, like, go forward, and she talks to Vader and the Grand Inquisitor and goes, "I wish to volunteer to hunt this Jedi." And she's young, she's still inexperienced, she's still training, and the Grand Inquisitor at first is like, "No, I'm gonna send, someone else. You're not ready." And to which Vader's like, "No, send the girl. Send her. If this is really what you want, girl, then you will go and you will not fail me." Because he's already, like, sensing, like, that she has the same obsession of killing Anne and Marcy, like he has the obsession of killing Obi-Wan. So Vader's like, "No, send her." So Sasha goes to Amphibia with some Death Troopers. Vader does give her some Death Troopers, and she's visited by, she is greeted by the locals, and actually, like, encounters the Toads. She beats several of them. She actually kills several of the Toads, and then encounters Grime, who Captain Grime sees, like, a warrior in her, and essentially, like, "Hey, I'll help you, because the Jedi kind of left us for dead during the Clone Wars, so I have no love for the Jedi, so I'll help you, and I know the terrain, so I'll help you find this Jedi." So Sasha and Grime team up along with the Death Troopers, and Anne is forced to come out of hiding to battle Sasha. Sasha also doesn't have, like, the typical Inquisitor lightsaber that spins. She just carries two red lightsabers, and when the two fight, it's a draw and Anne gets away, but at the same time, she gets away with the planner. Anne gets away with the planners, but however, now they have Sasha on their trail. But what's happened is that during their escape, when they escape back in the Force, they're set upon by someone else, and it's Marcy. Marcy had been living out here too, and she reveals that she came to this planet a little while ago, and had been trying to figure out why the temples are such an interest to the Empire, and all these factories. Well, they were all droid factories, but the temples were what the Empire really wanted, and Andreas was also interested in too. Because in this continuity, temples are Sith temples. Amphibia used to be a Sith planet. Not a Sith homeworld, but like a planet where the Sith communed with the dark side. And yeah. So in here, the Sith use this planet as like a holy land for themselves. And Marcy had been kind of like sneaking in and studying it, and even learning from a Sith holocron. So it turns out, yeah, Marcy's a little tainted by the dark side. Marcy also has a green saber staff. So we've got one saber, dual sabers, and saber staff. Run the whole gambit. So green saber staff for Marcy, and she's a little corrupted by the dark side. But in her mind, she's like, this is how, this is the only way we fight the Sith, and Anne refused that. At the same time, Sasha manages to catch up with them, but Anne gets away again, and essentially she does manage to take the planters and take them to her Star Destroyer to lure Anne and Marcy up to the Star Destroyer to face her. So Anne goes. Anne and Marcy both go, but Anne is the one who kind of pulls like the Luke Skywalker scene from at the end of Mandalorian, where she's just cutting through stormtroopers, and eventually her and Marcy do encounter Sasha. Anne's fighting through the dark side inside of her, and the two manage to stop Sasha, but instead of killing her, they're like, no, we never wanted to kill you. You're our friend. You're a Jedi like us. We need you. So Sasha's just kind of like conflicted, and roughly this time, this is when Vader shows up, because Vader already sensed, I knew you were going to fuck up, so I'm here to finish the job. And also, anytime I get to kill a Jedi is awesome. So Vader fights all three of them, and Sasha and Marcy are both killed by Vader. Anne manages to escape, this time with the planners, and they flee the planet and go on their own adventures. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much the Amphibia story, kind of in a nutshell. I didn't want to make this too long, but yeah. So I hope you're all enjoying this trilogy, and we got one more, and it's with the Owl House, so stay tuned for that one. But as always, if you haven't already, go check out the link in the description below. Hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.